Do you want to know what the fallen are, little one? In a sense, they are angels, but not the angels your mom imagines she prays to. Brass trumpets picnicking in the clouds. In their true essence, they are great swirling engines of wing and blood, fiery eyes that peer around the corners between worlds. Dark, radiant things conjured from fresh battlefields. A Frankenstein's Valkyrie, forever crashing to Midgard. What grief demands their hate? What vast cannibal hunger?
Welcome to the Fallen Cycle Mythos podcast. This is a universe full of secrets, waiting for those brave or foolhardy enough to seek them out. Cycle 1. Tales from When I Had a Face was written and produced by James Curcio, with editing by Brian Johnson. A modern fairy tale about death, loss, and finding redemption in the strangest places for those of us still haunted by the uncertain, occult logic of dreams. The fully illustrated black and white edition of this book is available at Amazon.com. The soundtrack features the work of David Bessel. Support for this project is pivotal. By becoming a patron at patreon.com/mythosmedia, that's MYTHOS media, you enable us to make more content like this and to be able to hire on more freelance artists in future works. Discover more about the transmedia Mythpunk Fallen Cycle universe at fallencycle.com. This podcast contains adult themes and may induce psychosis.
Season 4, Episode 3, Lost Girl.
The dream is always the same. I am with someone who I know well, but I cannot recall anything about her when I awaken. She is a blur, a mystery, an ache in my heart where memories should be. Funny thing, she was dressed in a tuxedo and I was stark naked. The two of us were fleeing together, hand in hand through a forest, away from the chasm and toward a river that cut through the other side. Later, we paddled together in peaceful silence in the rowboat we'd found. She curled up beside me, and we began to drift, lulled by the bobbing of the water and the easy rhythm of her breath. I've known you so many times before. She reached up and brushed my face with the back of her hand. I was looking over her shoulder, back to the darkened shore, expecting to see our pursuers. The cycle always turns. Fall yearns for spring, and winter for summer. The dream always ends the same, too. I float off alone in the sea of air. Light cuts through the darkness, and I fly toward its source. It is the only way to escape this place. I am ever in flight, with the witch in the woods ever behind. Below, there is a cottage in the hollow of a tree, bloated like an old baobab, surrounded by briars, perched above a great drop. All turns from sapphire to black and rust to emerald as I climb from the pit to the sky, as I hide away in a place she could never find me. She listens to the drip of water. It has a cadence. She realizes it has the rhythm of the Pink Floyd song Money, with the clang of cash register replaced with the grumbling of the pipes in her ancient apartment building. So then she's just sitting in a tub full of blood, singing along with a song that isn't playing, Don't Give Me That Do-Goody-Good bullshit, drumming out the beat on the porcelain. The walls and floor are covered with hand and footprints, like a 4-year-old broke into Dad's liquor cabinet and decided to play with a can of red paint from the garage afterwards. Her bathroom is the platonic ideal of crime scene. But she laughs and sings until the joke grows stale, and now she's crying and still doesn't know why. If she could just focus. It's that damn faucet. She keeps forgetting to fix it. Her hands come into focus, patches of dried blood like flaked rust, then running fresh where the water recently kissed, like the pattern of a river delta on her arms. Her body becomes real again, real in some way that it hadn't been a minute before. She takes a breath, curling into her center, then leans back against the enamel, cold against her flesh, and this too seems to ground her. She runs a hand down her rib cage, into the soft divot of stomach, fearing she might find the ropey coils of her own intestines there, and is briefly relieved to find nothing of the sort. Her fingers stop at the spiral tattoo on her shoulder, more out of curiosity than concern, the ridges of skin bearing their traces of scar tissue. People often asked her what it meant, but she would always answer with a question like, "Can you explain eternity?" in return, her voice thick with sarcasm, and turn away. Nyssa had accepted her own aloofness long ago. Now she luxuriated in it. "This really is happening. Now." She slaps herself on the cheek, firmly enough to feel something. Fog shrouds memories, and she gets nothing but a headache, creeping its way up her spine. She reaches over the side of the tub and hunts through the pockets of the jeans crumpled on the floor as the water sloshes around her. She retrieves her phone, and flipping it open without thinking, dials her mother's number. It rings straight to voicemail. "Hello, you have reached the answering machine of Holly Hunter." You always remember the weirdest shit years later. She saw a vision of her mother towering overhead like a tree, all prim and proper, an array of decorative swords hanging on the wall in a semicircle behind her. She was wearing a Donna Reed dress. Pearls dangled over her bosom. There had been some accident, blood and broken glass again. "Nyssa," she was saying, turning a pearl bead over between her fingers, paying no attention to the broken glass. "You must learn to hide." She smiled serenely as she patted Nyssa's head and went to get orange juice. "Here you go, dear." What did she mean, hide? Mother always thought she could fix her. Fuck. For once, I need you, and you're not there. She stands in the bath, still feeling like a stranger in her body. A consciousness injected inside a human frame. An alien 2 sizes too large for 3 dimensions. She turns on the shower faucet, and a momentary pink rainfall cascades from her shoulders. Then she looks to the far wall, expecting to see her face in the mirror, but finds bare tile instead. Her eyes trace a path to the floor, where a fleet of silver shards spread across the ceramic. There she was, mirrored in octuplet, as if meeting the gaze of a redback spider. Mother strolled behind as she ran her hands over the velvet petals, watching them dance in her wake. This must have been in the gardens behind the Victorian in Flatbush. She was wearing some ridiculous white lace dress Mother bought for Easter, and she'd already covered it with dirt, and now blood. She'd pricked her finger good on a rose bush and was about to suck at the wound. Mother grabbed hold of her hand. It startled her, but she smiled through it. "You are not like other girls. You're special." Nyssa had asked then, "Do any flowers love the moon the way these love the sun?" And Mother said, "There are many plants that grow in the sun, but some flower at night. Well, I think I'm like those. Nightshades, they're called." She wiped the still stinging finger on her dress and tore off into the labyrinth of vines and bushes past the flower garden. As she rounded a bend, she came face to face with something she'd never seen before. It stood like a man, but had curved horns, glistening onyx, and orange eyes. Muscled gray-blue skin rippled under a coat of fur, like a wolf's pelt. She screamed for her life as she turned and ran until she was in Mother's arms, her eyes shut tight, quivering on the verge of crying. "What is it?" she asked her adopted daughter, peering into the garden. "A monster," Nyssa said in hushed tones. Mother picked a flower and held it in front of her like an offering. "Always give flowers to monsters, and they won't be so scary," she said. Then she looked down and smiled, and Nyssa was safe, but she'd felt the heat in her blood then, the delicious threnody, and knew it was from herself that she needed to hide most of all. Thrum, thrum, the pulse. It wasn't the first time. After she licked a boy's scraped knee clean of blood at the park, they did not go to that park again. The torn skin had curled around her tongue as she looked into his empty eyes. She must have looked like a little girl with strawberry juice running down her chin. But she wasn't really a little girl, was she? It dried on her clavicle, her pale and thin little chest, a red cardigan, a white dress. She was born in the shape of a beautiful monster with dove feathers and ivy braided into her hair. But Mother made her up with ribbons and barrettes instead. Lucky to be homeschooled, she'd said. Lucky to be different. She knew the voice of her true mother was the purr of thunder, the sibilance of night, the sigh of green things. She still knows this sound, but denies it. She unfurls into a girl-shaped girl, her eyes open, herself finally and forevermore. She blinks at her many-faced reflection in the shattered mirror, naked and still smeared with blood. She picks up the phone again and sends a text to her girlfriend. "You up?" She dials the number and immediately starts babbling. "I'm so happy you're awake. Don't know how to say it, though. It's better if I do it. Can I? No, I'm not going to break up with you. Jesus. This is far worse than that. I didn't mean it like that. Oh, come on, baby. Please. Yes, coming right over. Love you." Nyssa heads out the door and crawls into her car, pushing a pizza box to the passenger side. She takes the road toward Ada's, but that's all she remembers for a while. Muscle memory takes charge as her mind begins turning over fragments of recollection. There are gaps between moments where she was a floating bulb of light, drifting in a sea of darkness. All those hours last night, that black, formless expanse, the blood must have come from somewhere, someone. The light is on in the window, and there Aita is, peering out into the night, eagerly waiting for her arrival. Aita slept in her grand's old room. Nyssa called it the mausoleum because Aita kept all of her grand's old things right where they'd been left, which included an ungodly number of bones. Sometimes she noticed the bones on the altar in the corner moved between visits, or there were the charred remnants of something in the bronze bowl Aita kept there. But it wasn't like Aita made any secret of being a witch. Nyssa finds herself suddenly thinking about a song she would sing to herself as a child. She had long maintained the fancy that if she could sing it with the exact proper inflection and fixation of will, the surface of the world would peel back and she could vanish into thin air. Who knows what adventures she might find on the other side? How did that song go anyway? Circle of wood, circle of bone, circle of stone, give them a spring tree flower, give them... Damn, how did it go? A bird lands on the hood. They stare at one another a long time, but she eventually concedes that you can't win a staring contest with a corvid and gets out of the car, walking towards the front door, her hands still shaking. "Start at the beginning," Aita says. Which is funny. She never starts stories at the beginning. "I was at the video store," Nyssa says. "This clerk followed me. Real weirdo. The first piece of a vast puzzle clicks into place. She can't see the whole picture, but feels a physical sensation, like a vertebra slipping back into alignment. "My God." "What is it, Blue?" Aita asks. Nyssa shakes her head. The vast sprawl of it is overwhelming, a submerged labyrinth. How far back did it go? How deep? "Well, for starters, I think I might have hurt someone pretty bad. I'm fine. But someone else isn't. And before I blacked out..." "Blood," Aita repeats, fidgeting with her coffee mug, and meets her own reflection in the black liquid surface. Her face darkens. "This guy was following me," Nyssa says. "I think he's been low-key stalking me for a while. Maybe. I turned a corner and... I don't know. I can feel it, but there's no picture with the image. Just the sensation of wet warmth. Then..." She shakes her head. "Nothing." "The cops, did you tell them?" Aita asks, interrupting herself mid-thought. "I'm here, aren't I?" Nyssa stands up, a hand on her forehead. "I also think I'm not human and I come from another world," she says to herself. She still can't say it aloud. Instead, she starts to chuckle, and this turns to shrill, lunatic belly laughs. Honey, I think I'm a trans-dimensional entity. No, can't say that, right? Aita reaches out for her hand, but Nyssa pulls back and begins pacing. She feels cold inside, still not quite properly situated in time or space. I'm sorry to get you involved, but there's no one else. My mom, she might know what to do, but she and I, well, you know. Please tell me, what do I do? I don't know, Aita says, shrugging. But I'm here. I know it sounds stupid, but there it is. Suddenly, predictably, the cold breaks. Tears roll down Nyssa's cheeks. She suddenly sounded much younger. Flowers for the monsters. It's me. It was always me. Come on, don't be strange, Aita says, emphasizing the word. Aita was the strange one. Woke something up in me, Nyssa mutters. Maybe if you explain everything from the beginning, Aita says, reaching for her again. Nyssa slides from Aita's hands, the gravity of the situation returning to her. I need to walk. Aita gives her a hopeful look, but she shakes her head and turns to the door. Alone. Sorry. Nyssa walks hard and fast. It is chilly, with the looming specter of rain as fog rolls in. A piece of car, a street sign, part of a children's playground appear in the mist, fragments that never quite cohere. Two options, really. Run or turn yourself in. That's the harsh truth. She imagines the life she would be inflicting on them both, pooling their meager funds, sitting on a train, Aita's face pinched with stress. She tries to hide it, but Nyssa knows. Hiding behind baseball caps, hoodies, and sunglasses. Maybe a TV is playing the news, showing their faces, their eyes now ringed with dark circles, the Chiron ticker beneath spooling out, "Suspects in murder." Running for what? To what? She stops walking. A fence seems to manifest out of the swirling gray, and that damn bird is sitting there, judging her. Seriously, fuck you, bird, she says. How do you keep finding me? It spreads its wings but doesn't take flight. The bell of a flower dangles from the fence beneath its feet, the stem coiled through the rusted links. Odd, at the very end of winter. Datura are spring flowers. She kneels to touch it before she realizes what she is doing, and it carries her back to childhood. Nyssa, stop running! You will get lost in there, Mother called. But Nyssa was already well ahead, following sudden turns in a maze of hedges, running on bare feet in a torn dress. There he was again, the one-eyed beast. Come back to us, lost seed, he growled, but it was as if he were calling out into the empty air and couldn't see her. She imagined him speaking into the fire that licked the inside of a broad iron bowl, and the bones that popped and cracked in the heat. Circle of wood, circle of stone, circle of bone. Give them the blood flower. Nyssa, return home. Damn, she was the last line. She remembers now. She could hear the one-eyed monster speaking with others, though she could not make out who or all the words. If the last Meliai dies, what then? One said. Then we die with her, eventually, he said. But if it has already been written, must it then be? Said another. Everything is already written, said he, but we cannot read the words. Then a pause. Don't worry, we will find you. She dropped a flower at his feet and ran as fast as she could. The raven hops sideways, still regarding her with those creepy, timeless eyes. She is only half in this world, standing in the rising mist of melting snow, the rest of her lost in the past. When they found her all those years ago, she was wearing a shredded dress, dirty and bleeding and unsure of anything. She had been fleeing through a forest, but from what? A group of boys crouched around her, imagining she was like a broken bird fallen from the stars, sweatshirt hoods pulled tight round their puckered mouths. One pulled back his hood and took a step closer to her, his breathing punctuated by the wet smacking of chewing gum from another. One broke a branch off a tree and began prodding her with it. "You just found her like that?" He had red hair and his face seemed a perpetual knot of cruel anxiety. "Yeah," grunted another. "Poke her again," said the first eagerly. She burst into motion, grabbed him by the leg, and bit down with all her might. A sweet taste bathed her body in its soothing calm. "What's wrong with her eyes?" One of them howled as he ran. Another called her a freak. Blood pounded in her ears. They feared her. She was surprised to discover that she didn't actually care what they called her. Their fear was enough. That was her first real memory. The raven cocks his head at her, and in her mind she thinks she hears him say, "Where has winter hid you away?" "Fucking bird, will you leave me alone?" she shouts at the raven. It croaks in reply, but still does not take flight. Again, in her mind, she hears a chorus of voices take shape. "As a child, you chased us from your garden like peeping toms. Our breath haunted you in hallways, lingered in the shadows behind your bed. But we were not there to scare you, treeling, a thing we cherish, a thing we most desire. We, the monsters under your bed, are your children's children's children. We still call to you. Please, be no longer afraid." She can only shake her head at the absurdity of this scene. A 19-year-old art student shouting at a bird that's hitting on her in a rainstorm. "That does it. I'm insane." "Still you run," she hears the voices say as she turns and does just that, right back toward Ata's. The only place she truly felt heard. But something restless is stirring inside her. She stops to catch her breath. The background of the city like an ink wash. Maybe she should give herself up after all, she imagines, walking up to the police. In this fantasy, she feels calm. The handcuffs click around her wrists. Ata would look on in tears and she'd frown, but she'd know, and somehow it would be okay. The alternative was a life on the run, the only life she'd ever really known. Running from a past she doesn't recall. Her mind wanders back to when they floated in the bathtub, deciding to run away. Such a sweet future that would have been. A singular indentation in time they could inhabit together forever. She feels as though she could stay in that memory just a bit longer, and maybe find the center of the universe. But it is growing full of sharp briars. Nyssa is in those briars now, but they don't hurt her. It is another who they will hurt. She looks up at Ida's window, and there she sits patiently, waiting in expectation of Nyssa's return. "I'm sorry," Nyssa says out loud, for her own benefit. It's not what she wants, but it's the only way Ita can live a good life, she tells herself. She might have just killed someone after all. That shift of tense from present to past, in it a whole lifetime vanishes. Decades evaporate in a moment. Ita's head bows, and she doesn't look up. The light eventually flickers off. The house Nyssa grew up in was a stately Victorian upstate. Seated on the apex of a hill, the overgrown remains of what had once been an elaborately manicured garden encircled the building much more expansively to the rear. She can see the forest behind the garden is still leafless, though the moon overhead is tumescent and alive, seeming to crowd the stars out of the sky. Walking the winding path that leads to the door, she slows her pace and dances for a moment in its beauty. She remembers the childhood games she played in the garden maze, but the sleepwalking dead lingered between the trees beyond the hedge, and she swears she can see their stooped forms wandering out there still. Holding the knocker between her fingers, cool and slightly damp, she thinks on the years she spent here. She knows that when she releases it, Mother will appear, and her decision will be even more final than leaving Ida had been. She still can't think of that last look they exchanged at the window without feeling her chest tighten, like the onset of a panic attack. She could turn back now, apologize for... She brings the knocker down, finally. A moment later, the door swings open. Her mother smiles at her in the way she always has, equal parts contrived warmth and aloofness, a New Englander to the end. "Nyssa?" she says, looking her adopted daughter over. The enthusiasm fizzles a little when she reaches the eyes and reads something there. Something she never wanted to read. "Oh," she says. "Oh no. So it's happened then." Nyssa smiles helplessly, but then sarcastically. "That's me. Mommy's little rule breaker." They exchange a quick embrace. "You have always been headstrong," she says. They sit on the sofa in front of the fireplace in the living room. The Christmas tree is still set up, though her mother had sent her a present in the mail since Nyssa had left for school the summer before and knew she'd probably not come. "I got your message," she says hesitantly. "What happened?" "Well," Nyssa begins, but can't find a place to start that seems remotely normal. "I guess I'll just say it. I woke up in the bathtub, covered in blood, and I couldn't remember where I had been." "Oh, gods!" "Don't worry," Nyssa says, realizing immediately how dumb that sounds. "How can you say that? Nyssa, this isn't all right." "But it is, actually," Nyssa says, starting to believe the words even as she says them. "Listen, I need you to be completely honest. Where did I come from?" Her mother unconsciously puts a hand to the pearls at her chest. She clears her throat and stares down mutely at the rug on the floor between them. "My mother got this necklace for me, you know, and her mother made it." She shakes her head again. "I've told you everything I know. When you came out of the woods behind our garden, you were like a frightened animal. They found you had been living beside the train tracks, chasing down birds with your bare hands. Those were your first words. Birds, forest, train. We worked very hard to make things better for you, and you've come such a long way. You really have, dear. What have you gone and done?" "Everything you feared," Nyssa says, more brutally than she'd intended. "You're scaring me," her mother says. Though her hands are folded, her breath is measured. "You should be scared," Nyssa says. "Your world is dying. But that's the very last thing that scares you." "Honey?" she asks, now beginning to seem genuinely concerned. "I have to turn myself in," Nyssa says, the finality of it settling like lead upon her limbs. "Maybe some professional help would," her mother begins, as if she hadn't heard. "By the way," Nyssa cuts in, "I guess I should tell you now." "Tell me what? There's more?" Her voice raised a half note. Nyssa feels a certain unexpected satisfaction in this, in finally getting some kind of reaction out of her. "You know my study buddy, Ita? Not so much with the studying. Is that what this is about? Some kind of lover's quarrel?" "No, I have to protect her and it sucks. But since it doesn't matter now, I thought you should know," Nyssa says. "Well then, I don't care about that. You're my girl, always." "You do care about appearances," Nyssa says, getting to her feet, though she has never in her life heard her mother talk like this. She feels a thrill of anger surge through her, and can't figure out from where it has come. But that's for other people. You're my daughter. Nyssa stops in her tracks and exhales slowly. "Fuck. You have to pick now?" "How could you not know?" Nyssa turns and puts a hand on her shoulder. "You know," but she trails off and can't speak the words. For just a moment, she was her daughter, a creature born of this world, born from her womb. And this was a dream, and she'd go on to have a normal life in the suburbs, all of which she could see laid out before her like a picnic on a serene summer's day. Someone else's life. A good life. A human's life. She squeezes her mother's hand once and walks away, hearing her quietly sob as she closes the door. She was born for something far stranger. She'd never ridden in a cop car before. Officer Trevino is in the front, talking about her over the radio. She ponders his warmth up there, feels it through the seats and divider. Your heart first, she thinks. Your heart is going to burst hot in my mouth. The ravens circle high above them, moving yet higher in the sky, as if pleading to the moon. "Excuse me?" Trevino asks, unnerved by the unblinking eyes reflecting in the rearview mirror.
"I didn't say anything," she says.
The psych clicks his pen as he asks his first question. What day is today? The holding cell is dim, 70s institutional and full of lowlifes. The atmosphere is suffused with pallid fluorescent light and a palpable sense of banal despair, and everything seems to have an antiseptic smell. Bleach and something she can't place, like a moldy attic. A cadre of doctors peer at them through a triple-paned glass observation window. It has been hours. She can feel her hair has become greasy, her eyes burn. It's all starting to get to her. He asks again and clicks his pen several more times for no apparent reason. Couple days before Christmas, I think, or after. Near the anniversary of my girlfriend's grandmother's death. She talks about it a lot. Like, a lot. They both have the same name, you know? Bit confusing sometimes. Year? 2008? Almost 2009?
"Do you know where you are right now?"
He asks. Clinical walls, cinder block, that ugly yellow that they are all painted, that uglier pastel blue trim. Institutional designers are the true madmen. Disneyland? She says. He doesn't react, so she becomes serious. A drunk tank? Prison? I don't know how this shit works. Sorry, I curse a lot.
"Why do you think you are here?"
He asks. He is clearly working from a script. She starts to wonder if he is a grad student of some kind. You think I killed a guy, and I can't remember what happened. And that looks pretty bad. He sits, unresponsive. Okay, real bad? She ventures. What do you remember? He asks, starting to jot down notes with that pen. The clerk at a video rental was stalking me. One evening, he followed me out of the store. I didn't know it was him. I was terrified. I started running. Then, nothing. His name was Eric Johnson, the psych says blandly. Maybe? Wait a second, do you hear voices in your head? The psych asks, moving on without so much as a beat. That's a stupid question, she says with a chuckle. Everyone hears voices in their head. What do they say? He asks studiously, after regarding her for a moment. Right now, the same line from a bad Italian disco song, repeating over and over. It's this awful tune an ex would play to fuck with me. He scribbles something down. Are you a grad student? Or autistic or something? She blurts out suddenly. His eyes narrow microscopically. What? Obviously, I'm an oddball too. I'm just saying. She trails off and gives him the thumbs up. He just kind of sits there blankly. It's so bad that it makes me angry. But then you listen to it so much that you can't exactly pretend it's ironic. She continues her previous train of thought. She starts tapping on the table. He scribbles something else and leans back, scrutinizing her. Do you realize how serious this situation is? I do. I make jokes when I get nervous. It's a habit. Hey, you've got a degree or something, right? What does that say about me as a person? He seems to be staring at her chest. I know there's not much down there, but you could not, she says. He looks up, but doesn't apologize. The voices, they never tell you to kill anyone or... She shakes her head. No creepy black dogs or any of that shit. Kill for me. Summer of Sam? No?
How well do you sleep?
Nocturnal, you know, she says. I've always been nocturnal. The artist's disease. Moonlight affliction? Datura always bloomed at night. It smelled amazing. He scrawls something else. Probably drug addict. Dreams? He asks. An army of moths. I was in a garden. And why does it matter? I didn't kill my dad and fuck my mom. That's what you guys like, right? He doesn't react. Like, at all. Freud, she prompts. Come on. No one studies Freud anymore. he says. "Thank you, Nyssa. Detective Trevino is going to ask you some questions now." As if on cue, the door cracks open, and a worn-looking man saunters in, carrying a steaming cup of coffee and a manila folder. She recognizes him from the car ride earlier. He takes a sip and gestures for the psych to leave. "I'll cut right to it. We have your prints all over. What I want to know is how the hell you did it. The things that were done to the bodies took quite a lot of strength and determination." He emphasizes that last word.
Bodies? Plural?
She says sharply. He shakes his head. "All I've admitted is what I know. I don't remember," she says.
Amnesia, yeah. I've heard that one before.
He says. "Maybe these will jog that memory." He slides the folder over to her and opens the cover. The photos inside are gruesome. A man, squashed like a bug, his limbs splaying out at unnatural angles. She blinks, suddenly recognizing the face. It wasn't the clerk. It was her ex-boyfriend, from before Ida. Holy fuck. No, I didn't. I mean, he was a total asshole at the end, and what did that wall ever do to him, you know? But I wouldn't ever. Trevino studies her face and frowns. "You're a hell of an actress. Or maybe you actually don't remember. Doesn't matter. You have their blood in your bathroom, for fuck's sake." "I do?" she asks, genuinely confused.
Yes, ma'am.
He says stiffly. Her head slumps forward. She doesn't feel anything, know anything, until she hears his fingers snapping loudly. "Hello?" he says from far away. "Did you nod off? Are you high?" It was a few years before, she could hear herself saying. Sometimes I'd go for walks to clear my head, walking down a path that led into the darkness at night. Darker, denser somehow than night. The air was wet and heavy. I finally made my way through the garden labyrinth and into the forest out back. I saw lights trailing in the air, like fireflies. They guided me past the threshold, ringed by spirits with chattering teeth. I had been running from someone, gone mad with hunger. I was just a girl then, alone and shivering in the cold. She matches Trevino's gaze, but still doesn't feel like she is the one speaking. I remember now, though it still feels like something that happened to someone else. She reflexively reached to her face, feeling the spot where bone had met bone with a dull thwack some time before. What a crazy spring it had been. The faint impression of a bruise still lingered. Turning to ask the clerk a question, she realized she'd be talking to a corpse, an object, a sack of bones, organs, and shit. Her heart was pounding. The sound of it threatened to blot out everything, even her own consciousness. A convulsion started in her chest, like the tremor before a smoldering volcano blows millennia of rock and dirt a mile into the air. But when it finally erupted, she was washed in an outpouring of pleasure rather than regret. Staring into the reflective surface of the knife, she sniffed at his blood. Before she knew what she was doing, her tongue slid out, hesitantly at first. It tasted sweeter than buttercream frosting. She put her hand in the still-growing pool of his blood, leaned in, and bit down with a wet crunch. Her mouth filled with honeysuckles and bees, and she saw plants, wriggling green tendrils reaching, grasping, covering the earth. An eternity of life growing out of death and decay. Fragrant pollen in the wind. Right now she is confessing to a felony and can't believe she's doing it. But what does she have to worry about, really? These cops are shadows on the wall, long dead. After she is done, she is going to walk right through them. All my life I ran from what I was, but the little things never went away, not really. I used to talk to the plants, and they talked back. I could feel their pain, their anger. No one else seemed to notice. I heard it again after I killed him, so much louder than it had been. I curled into a ball at the base of a tree. It felt like home, its roots nourishing me, giving me strength. Passers-by saw nothing but an old ash tree. I am a spirit of death trapped in flesh. Trevino's mouth falls open without his volition. He closes it with apparent effort.
What the ever-living fuck are you talking about? Can you hear yourself right now? Get real.
I'm telling you what happened, she says. Real? It's not a matter of which thought is real and which isn't. The question is which thoughts eat the others. It's all real. She rises to her feet. Goodbye, detective. In one fluid motion, she kicks the table forward. It lurches with a shriek and drives into his gut with surprising force. She is looking upward, speaking to her people in the world beyond the veil. I return to you, my sisters, a tree of all your names, with branches that unfurl in May dreams. Your buds are now ready to open, and you all might finally return to Alteran from your imprisonment in the cottage of the winter tree. May you be replenished. She raises her shackled arms overhead and looks down for the final time on this body she had mistaken for herself. This tiny backwater world she had imagined was the limit of the universe. Circle of wood, circle of stone, circle of bone. Give them a flower, return home.
Trevino was alone in the room, breathing heavily. His papers were scattered across the floor, but she was nowhere. He looked up at the camera in the corner of the room.
Jesus! Well, get in here, assholes, he said as he wiped his face and found it dewy with nervous sweat.
I am a tree of names, with branches that unfurl in May dreams, seeds that litter the skies, and leaves that drink in the fane. My lover, look up. You will wear 100,000 names before laying bare just the one. The second world is right here, if it is anywhere. You are already home. Behind everything you've ever seen lies a veil of white. Its brilliance momentarily consumes all distinction, then it shatters into snowflakes. First, I feel the cool wind on my face. I can see the vague contour of a hill with the ghosts of jagged mountains in the distance. The moon, creased with lines and cracks. At the mountain's base, the ice-crowned arrowwoods. The last flurry of winter, melting on my cheeks. Deeper still, there is a clearing ringed by ash trees, wrapped in thick vines holding fast to their buds. Soon, they will open. I have returned.
Trevino stared at the lie they'd caught on live tape. It had to be a lie.
The pixelated footage of Nyssa played back the same way, again and again. Her hands cuffed, her eyes rolled back in her head. She stood up, said some bizarro children's rhyme, and poof. One frame she's there, one frame she isn't. Just a thought, she had said.
So, what do you see?
Trevino asked the deputy sitting beside him.
What?
He grunted, still staring at the screen, his eyes frosted over.
People don't just disappear, right? It's like she vanished into the mist, Trevino said.
Sure, Adam, the deputy chuckled. Start polishing the resume, buddy. But it's right goddamn there. Let me ask you, what's the only possible answer to the obvious question? Trevino asked, wise enough not to drop William of Ockham on the deputy.
Maybe she's a wizard, he replied, finally swiveling in his chair to level a stare at Trevino.
Really? Trevino said, not sure what else to say.
The deputy popped a milk dud into his mouth and chewed very slowly as he pondered.
I think I don't want to be the one that's got to bring this crazy bitch in. That's what I think.
Trevino could only grunt. He would never live this one down.
That's all for this week's episode. Stay up to date with upcoming episodes by subscribing at fallencycle.podbean.com or wherever you prefer to listen to your podcasts. Check out the work of the contributing musicians. Those links and additional information is available in the text provided along with this episode. This audio edition was produced by James Kershaw along with text-to-speech synthesis. A statement on the use of LLMs is available on our website for those curious about how we do and don't use these technologies. This podcast is Creative Commons 3.0, Attribution, Share and Share alike, non-commercial use.